Welcome to Straight from the Horse's Mouth radio show. I'm Paula Slater, your host. This is an interview-based podcast where I have conversations with some of the most creative and interesting people in the horse world. Today I'd like to welcome Margrit Coates to our show. And Margrit is an animal communicator and an animal healer. Welcome, Margrit.
Hi, Paula. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show.
Now, tell us, how did you ever get started? I'm always interested in animal communicators, how they knew that they were communicating.
Well, I actually got started as a child, and my earliest memory of communicating with an animal, I was 18 months old, sitting in a chair with my mother and an uncle, and they were talking to me. Obviously, I was too young to understand all of the nuances of that, the human language. But I vividly remember there was a dog in the room, and I was looking from the humans to the dog, and hearing through the universal listening process that the dog was also communicating in a very similar way to the humans about thoughts, opinions, what was going on in the world. And I thought it was completely normal. I continued through childhood thinking this is what everybody did. And I also had a natural connection as a healer. And so what I do that's pretty unique, I think, is I make the healing connection and come through onto the communication level on that vibration, because they actually operate on the same wavelength. So when I'm working as a healer, making that deep connection, that's where I start to listen to the animal. So I don't go in with a list of questions. I don't ever have an agenda. I go to the animal and I say, who are you? I'm going to listen to you. This is not about me. I'm going to listen to you. So I make a healing connection, which is how I've always done it ever since I was a child. Make the healing connection, bang, boom, I'm on the communication wavelength. And for me, that's the most powerful, authentic way of working.
Do you do any preparation before you start communicating?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have done years and years and years of soul work, yoga classes. I've done 10 years of weekly transcendental meditation. I take myself off every day, even now, or whether it's for 10 minutes or half an hour. I make the time to be spiritual, to be peaceful. I read a lot of very spiritual items, books or articles. I listen to very good music, classical music I love. Just everything that reminds me to be still inside. As I say, your question's really good, because I go to the animals and work from a place of inner stillness, and that's when I'm teaching what I encourage people to do, and I help them to understand how to reach the place of inner stillness. Because if we don't have that, it's like switching on a radio and not hearing the program. It's like hearing several things going on. It's scrambled, it's distorted. So inner stillness is really important.
So I assume, or never assume, but I would guess that maybe you meditate first before, if you have a case or a client, before trying to establish a connection?
Yes, and because I've done so many years of deep, intensive meditative processes, for me it's quite easy to shift onto that wavelength. So I can drive to a client, lots of traffic, negotiating my way through the rain or something, and arrive and feel a little bit agitated. And then the minute I see the horse or the dog or the cat or the whatever animal people ask me to come and help with, I just find it very easy to go, okay, I'm going within, I'm going still, because I've done so much meditation. So the more we practice meditation, the more we practice mindfulness, the easier it is to say, I'm shifting consciousness, I'm sliding now, away with that stuff. Okay, there I am. I'm now in the moment, I'm present, I'm attuned. The critical, vital thing is when we touch an animal to work on the healing level, which is the level of communication, to match the energy wavelength of that animal. If we don't match that energy wavelength, if we don't know who we're talking to, who we're communicating with, if we don't sense that individual, we can be way, way off beam. And that's where I come across so much myth and misunderstanding about animals. So I need to listen to the signature energy of that animal, that non-human animal. So I slide my consciousness, I'm in that present moment, my breathing changes, it automatically becomes deeper, still. I'm not distracted by outward things going on, noises or people moving around. I'm there. And suddenly I've created that space where I can hear the animal. The animal knows I can hear him or her. We enter the dialogue, and it's a very beautiful place to be.
Now, I'm thinking back. I want to go back again when you were a child, and I just want you to share that experience, your first experience when you were 18 months, but then the next one, like maybe the most profound, maybe when you realized that you did not, or most people do not communicate with animals. It's not regular. Okay,
so then actually going beyond childhood, because it was when I first started being with horses. I'd always had a childhood dream to be with horses. My background is was a deprived background materially. My mother was a refugee. My parents divorced when I was very young, so my mother brought me and my sister up in very poor circumstances. Material things we didn't have. And so it's how I grew very close to nature, because that's free, it's available for all. And I'd always had a dream. I saw horses, I saw people riding them, and just to me they were gods and goddesses walking along. Wanted to be with them. The money wasn't there for being with horses, riding or learning about them, until I left college with a degree and started earning some money. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing the things I've always wanted to do. Now I have some money to pay for things. So I went to a local farmer's wife who had some horses, and it was the first few weeks were very beautiful being with the horses. She kept them naturally. She wasn't doing it for a business, really. She just had some horses. Local people in the village could go, and it was wonderful. And then I thought, okay, I'm enjoying this so much. I need to go to a proper commercial riding establishment and learn to ride like you see in the movies and the magazines. And went along, and the first experience, the first session, to be honest, I was horrified, and I thought, they're not listening. These people, they may have all these qualifications after their names. They're telling me I don't know anything about horses. They're telling me I'm a novice. They're telling me they're experts. They are not listening to the horses. They don't hear them. They're not even interested in hearing them. There are sick horses. There are horses with headaches. There are horses with pain. There are horses with grief. They're telling me these things. And I drove home and I was shocked and very sad. And I remember saying to myself, they're not like me. what's so wonderful through my work and my books and my teaching is I'm meeting people like me. And I realise I'm not alone, and people are constantly, every minute of every day, sending me messages, beautiful messages about their relationship with the animals, how they've been patient and suddenly heard a voice. I had a lady today, actually, from America say she took on a troubled Mustang, and how she's been patient. She'd read my book, Horses Talking, one of my books, and she wanted to be able to hear him. She wanted him to know she could hear him. And so she held that thought. And yesterday, he came to her, and they hugged, and he didn't run away, and she heard his voice. And, I read that, and that comes, and I think, wow, this is just magical. So things are shifting, things have shifted, but that's the moment when I realised there was a long way to go and people were not listening, and horses were suffering horribly, and still are.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, I think many of the guests that I've had on this show have, in their different disciplines, whether they be an author, an artist, or working with troubled children, the same message is coming through. And horses, not dogs, not cats, but horses seem to be the leaders in this. And it seems that they are the ones that the message seems to be going out to the people that love horses. And it seems to be growing in momentum. That's my take on it anyway.
Absolutely, and I really agree with you. And I'm learning all of the time. And my main teachers are the horses. Obviously, I'm working with all animals, but most of my work's with horses. And I'm learning every single time I'm with a horse. And I've maybe done consultations, perhaps 22,000 or more over the years. No experience is the same as any other one. I've never met two horses the same, because you and I are unique, as is everybody else on the planet. I'm learning all of the time, and I'm having the most amazing experiences. And often I'm standing with a horse and I think, wow, I know you. You're just an amazing being. And, I'm a very down-to-earth person, but I can honestly say I've had experiences of otherworldliness through being with horses. I've had experiences where I was in Denmark in July, and I had an incredible experience with a very nervous, sensitive mare, a black Frisian. And she didn't let many people into her space, apart from the beautiful woman who was taking her on as her companion. And she did let me into her space. And as I was working with her, I had, and as I say, I'm a down-to-earth person. I don't do airy, fairy, flaky stuff. But I had the sensation that I was actually with a goddess. And I just couldn't, and I wanted to grasp that and go beyond it. But I thought, she's got more wisdom than me. She knows more than me. Today I can grasp this knowledge she's giving me, this teaching, this learning. But I'm not as intelligent as she is. I'm not as wise. I'm not as all-knowing. And I have to earn my teaching by just keep going and keep learning. And so those horses are phenomenal, and they're hugely misunderstood, and very much they suffer at the misunderstanding of human hands.
I often wonder why. I wonder why it's allowed. It must be something that we need to learn through all of this, because it wouldn't be. They are suffering, and they are such unique creatures.
Yeah.
And everyone, even if they don't get it, the intuitiveness of horses has come across. People have said just sense.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, it's sort of like humans, why does that person suffer so much? She doesn't.
I mean, my take on the suffering of horses in the relationship with humans, this is my take.
Yeah.
Horses are big animals. They are actually wild animals. They're not domestic animals like dogs and cats. They don't come into our home. They don't share our domestic situations. They're wild animals. We keep them outside of the home environment. So there's a link to the inner wildness. There's a link to our soul that seeks to be wild and seeks to be free. A lot of people cannot take that step to recognize it. And so there's a perpetual momentum of self-creating mess, if you like, where people keep their horses too confined because it's a reflection of their inability to let themselves go spiritually, in terms of being empathic, all-embracing of all people, of situations. And also the human agenda, the human ego, often blocks the empathic relationship with horses. I want to look good. I want to win a prize. Gee, I want to get a bigger hat. I want to get nicer things. I want to dominate the horse because falsely they think it makes them look good. In my view, it makes them look horrible and stupid and naive. But so there's this human ego thing that steps in all of the time and says, but if I look strong and if I bully and if I say the words I know that captivate people but bully at the same time, people will like me and they'll think I'm a leader. And the horse is standing there and saying, actually, that is not leadership. That is weakness. It is lack of understanding, and it's ignorance. That's my take. That's what the horses tell me. So when we step away and say, okay, I don't need to prove anything to another person. What I need to earn is my eternal future as a soul. Because when we leave this planet, all we have is our soul energy. We don't take our ribbons and our certificates and our DVDs of us spinning horses round a round pen with us. We go alone and we meet those horses and they will look at us and say, what was all that about? Why did you let your ego get so large you didn't listen to me?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. Margrit, do you have anything for people, horse owners, that really want to be closer to their horse? Any advice? I know that it would be, I'm going to guess, listening and being still in the moment, but anything to help them get there faster?
Yeah, practice healing. Become a healer, because if everyone on this planet was a healer, there'd be no need for healing. There would be no problems. We wouldn't have problems as a species. The horses wouldn't have problems. The animals wouldn't have problems. The environment wouldn't have problems. Practice healing. Find a healing modality that you enjoy, that suits you, that speaks to you, that resonates with you. I'm a registered classical healer, but Reiki is also something that lots of people do. Practice healing. Touch your horse or any animal with healing hands. Don't have an agenda. Don't seek something for yourself. Give. And remember that touch has a memory. So every time you touch your horse, any being, you leave a memory of your intention, of who you are, how soft your touch was, how healing. You leave your voice in your hand on the horse's body. The horse reads you all of the time. So it's faking it, all of the saying one thing and doing another thing doesn't cut anything with them. It's the same that when people touch you, they leave a memory. How many of us have somebody touches you and you think, oh, that feels good. And you feel good afterwards for hours because that person touched with healing and with love. And so touch with love. Remember you're leaving a memory. So leave a memory of empathy, of kindness, of you being not more important than a horse, not bigger, not a master, but an equal. So practice healing, touch with love, and listen. And have patience. Set your horse free to be a horse, and in doing so, you set yourself free.
Mm-hmm. I think too that I think the idea of I know here anyway that people, if you're not actively riding your horse or doing something with the horse, I don't know that that's such a necessity rather, rather than just being. Some of us, definitely the boomers in the world, are finding themselves limited in terms of their physical abilities, either their knees or so on. And I think they feel definitely with a lifelong companion that, they're doing that, or a younger horse, doing that horse a disservice because they cannot, and I'm going to put the quotes around, use the horse the way they think it should be. And now that's teaching from way back, and that a horse should be working, and a horse should be doing this, and if the horse isn't doing that, it's going to turn into an out-of-control wild creature. And from what I've learned over the years, is that horses remember, and any sort of work that you did together as partners will be there. The horse won't, I don't think, slide back. And that if you can just be with them, grooming them and just being around them and touching them, I think that that's valuable.
You've touched on such an important point, Paula. Let's look at the authentic situation of horses. They're not working animals. Humans have made them working animals. I live in a national park with 4,500 wild horses. What do?
Eat.
They eat, they stroll around very slowly. They hang about, and they break up into groups. They lie down. You very rarely see them trot or canter, only if there's a roundup going on and they're checking them, or maybe a dog running around. They are conservators of energy. They conserve energy. The humans come along and taken the natural paces of a horse and overused it, which is why there's a massive business in horse body workers, vets, this, that, the other, having created joint problems, musculoskeletal problems, digestive problems, mental behavior problems. The wild horses don't have these things. So what makes a horse wild and out of control is mostly the handling, the work of horses. Undiagnosed pain is the number one issue for behavioural problems. Horses are peace-loving, They're not animals that charge around, as we've just discussed, naturally. So, provided the horse has enough space and friends, they love a life of being a horse. I have so many contacts now where people say, I've come away from the pressure of the barn, of peer pressure to say, you must do this with the horse, you must do that. It didn't feel right, as you say. We've got older or even young people contact me and say, do you know what? I just hang out with my horse. I sit and I look at my horse. I groom my horse. And I actually get satisfaction from knowing I'm looking after a horse. I'm looking after, maybe a number of horses, or with friends we're looking after horses. The satisfaction is knowing that you're taking care of them, that you're helping them. All of this stuff, I mean, it's actually a nightmare for horses, the amount of work that so many people ask them to do, the pain and distress they're in, the way they live. Let's just stop and think about it. It's not good. It's not right. And it's not normal. It's what humans do for humans to look good. The horse doesn't give a damn about the plaited mane, about the ribbons, about the winning this, about the show that. But the human does. So enjoying horses, where, I've been there, done that in my youth, done some competing, done some formal stuff, but very quickly I thought, this isn't what it's about. And just hanging out with a horse, trail riding, hacking we call it here, on loose rein was how I really found the joy of being with horses. Just walking, stopping, looking, getting off, having a picnic, allowing my horse to graze with friends. That's a natural situation for horses if we're going to ride them. That's what they do naturally. And so there's a lot of food for thought, and it is wonderful when people come to the realization that these beings are friends. They are not slaves.
Mm-hmm. I think for my husband and myself, one of the things that we really enjoyed was camping with our horses.
Yes.
And we found that we really grew quite quickly close to them, and It was like a conversation. And they actually weren't doing the best time was in camp when we were just sharing the same space, and it was like a nicker back and forth, and I'd go, and it was like talking, and I'll treasure that.
And that's marvellous. And, when I was riding, my husband used to come out on his mountain bike. Is that what you call them in the States as well? Mm-hmm. And I'd be trail riding along, and he'd be cycling along. And if he stopped to do something, my horse would stop and go, okay, he's past the herd. We have to wait for him. And we went out, and it was just fantastic. And horses are there saying, do you want to come into my herd, or do you just want to be so focused on not listening that you're missing so much? So what you say is wonderful, and just hanging out with the horses, doing things, getting to know them, and we can handle them daily just to keep that link to being with humans. They don't become wild and ridiculous if we don't ride them every day or once a week. Mm-hmm. They, as you say, they have that memory of and it really upsets me, all of this imprinting stuff of foals, because that's such a human invasion of the relationship of the mare with the foal, and also of the foal's early life. I mean, what human mother would let a room full of strangers come into her room after birth and start sticking fingers in every orifice? It's just not good. Mm-hmm. So it's allowing the horse to be
a horse.
Freedom. It comes back to freedom. And we won't find our inner peace. We won't find the sense of being, the sense of meaning that we're looking for in life until we're able to let other beings be free and be what they are. And that's, in this situation, being a horse.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's wonderful, Margaret. And I think that your books will help people understand. And I was wondering perhaps if you could just go through the books that you have written for every animal.
Well, yes. Currently there are 6 books. I'm writing another one, a new one. The first book was Healing for Horses, and it was actually the very first book in the world on the topic of healing for animals. So it was Healing for Horses. Then I followed that with the book Hands-on Healing for Pets, about healing dogs and cats. So they were the first books in the world. No books existed.
Wow.
Until I realised that they didn't, and I was probably the only person in the world focusing on animal healing. So it was Healing for Horses, Hands-on Healing for Pets. Then I wrote another horse book, Horses Talking, how to share healing messages with the horses in your life, which is very much on the communication level. Then I wrote Connecting with Horses, the life lessons we can learn from horses. And that touches on the areas of equine-assisted learning and so on, and how horses heal people. Then I wrote Angel Pets, Incredible True Stories of Animal Miracles, really about, the title might be a little bit misleading. It's not about pets that have gone to heaven, although there's some of that in the book. It's about how animals are actually here as guides in our life.
Right.
They know everything about us, how they're watching us, listening to us on a day-to-day basis, and how when we listen to them, they guide us to see happiness and success and all this stuff. And then the 6th book is Communicating with Animals, How to Tune into Them Intuitively, which is very much a guide taking people through how they can develop their skills in animal communication. And my 6th book, Communicating with Animals, How to Tune into Them Intuitively, is a full guide that helps people understand how they can develop their skills, whether they've done any communication or they've done some before. So it takes them through that. It's a very comprehensive book. So if someone's starting out and wants to know about communication, I would say go for the Communicating with Animals book, because it has a lot of horse stories in there, as well as dogs and cats, and about an elephant and other things. Then, of course, if they specifically wanted to just focus on horses, there's the book Horses Talking. Both Communicating with Animals book and the Horses Talking book touches on the healing element.
Okay.
So it explains what you do and how you get on to the very deep level through the healing links. So those are the 2 books I would suggest.
Okay. Now, I noticed also on your websites you have DVDs. I gather that it just depends on what method or what how people learn. Some people learn best by visual, other people learn by reading. So what's your thought about that?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's why when I'm teaching, I have a lot of visual presentation stuff before I go to the practical. I have a DVD called Animal Healing. I also have a CD of meditations to help people achieve the level of, or reach the level of consciousness for communicating with animals, and it's called Communicating with Animals. It's a spoken DVD, me speaking the meditations. That's on my website.
And I was going to ask too, one more thing. I know also that you do you work with people and their animals, because most people are not they don't have the gift that you do, but hopefully they will. And do you work at a distance?
I do work as a distance because there are lots of people who I can't physically get to see. So that's a service I offer. And that's something I teach as well on my workshops. I think one of the important points is when people start practicing is to practice, first of all, with animals belonging to someone else. This is because we get so emotionally involved with our own animals that we think, well, I've just asked my horse what has he got to, message has he got, and he's shown me grass, and I know he likes grass, so that's not a very good message. When we go and work with animals, so we doubt ourselves. So when we go and work with animals belonging to other people, we can get verification. So we can stand there. The best ways to work with an animal you know nothing about. Absolutely nothing. Don't ask any questions about anything. This is what I do on most of my consultations. I just go in there, make the healing connection, and allow the horse to talk to me. That's why I don't start off with a list of questions. Because I want the horse, I wouldn't go into a room full of people and rush up to somebody and say, right, I've got a list of questions, I'm going to ask you these. The person would go, I don't want to talk to you. So I stand and I say, I can hear you, what would you like to say? And the things that the horse comes up with may resolve the questions that the person had anyway, or will bring up new questions. So my advice is find people who will let you talk to their horses that you know nothing about, and ask them to be ruthlessly honest with you. If they don't understand, or if you're getting something wrong, this is the learning process, and this is how we gain confidence. Once we become confident, our own pets sense that, and they sense that they can say things and we will receive it. And also what happens is people relax. When I'm working with humans, often for the first 15 and in consultations, I'm working with humans, and often in the first 15 or 20 minutes, I need to get the person to relax, because often I can't hear the horse because the person is so energetically scrambled. And then they start to relax, and then quite often those people who say to me they can't hear their horses and they're not communicators will suddenly say, wow, I'm sensing this and I'm hearing that. So once we relax, don't have an agenda. And also, not having an agenda is, people say to me, can you tell my horse not to do this? Can you tell my horse not to do that, my dog can't? And I say, absolutely not. You've got a horse. The horse is not a human. Let's just understand why the horse does things. But I am not going to tell your horse to get on with Benny over there or Susie over there. He has a choice. She has a choice. It's their relationship. If there's something going wrong, look at your management. Look at your size. Look at how you're handling. Look at the structure of what's going on, where the lifestyle of the horse may not be suitable. So yes, practice with other people, gain some confidence, then just always say to them, I'm listening, and that's all you need to say, and genuinely mean it. Go to a meditation class, practice deep breathing, and people, if you're looking for awareness, you will find it. If you want to be inspired, you will receive inspiration. If you want to be open, all you've got to do is open your heart and open your mind. The choice in all of these things is ours.
I think that's really profound. And I think that's something that we need to hear. I really appreciate that, Margrit.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could share now, I'd like people to be able to connect with you and find you, your URLs. I know you have a number of websites. So
yeah, I think the easiest way to find me is through my main website, margritcoates.com. That's MargritCoates. And that will link to a horse-dedicated website and a pet-dedicated website. And there are some workshops on there. New ones get added frequently, and I'm hoping to be in the States next year again. I've been there many times, a place I absolutely love. So that's the way to get in touch.
Okay, super. And do you also have any social media?
I have a Facebook page. My private one is now completely full, but I have a public one where I post the same things that go onto my private one. And I do Twitter when I can get round to it. I'm not a great Twitterer, but I do post on my public Facebook page a lot. And I think that's the main social media.
Great. Now, I'm assuming, just before we go, I just want to check, if you do any consultations, do you do them through Skype?
Yes, I like to do my consultations through Skype.
Great.
It's very helpful if people have got a means of showing me the horse or the animal through maybe an iPad or something. So that's how I like to do my consultations, yeah. Obviously, hands-on is my favourite, actually smelling and touching and breathing the horse and meeting the person in real time, but that's not possible in most situations.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this and your words of wisdom to us all, and I hope it makes a difference.
Thank you, Paula. I've so much enjoyed speaking with you.
Okay, well then we'll say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed my interview today with Margrit Coates, a wonderful author and a wonderful communicator. For more information about Margrit Coates and links to her websites and information about her books, please go to straightfromthehorse'smouth.com. If you're like me and you're very busy with different chores, looking after animals, etc., it's nice to be able to listen to the books you would like to read but don't have time to get your eyes on them. You can listen while you muck out, wash the dishes, or walk the dog. Audible provides 180,000 titles of different books that you can choose from. And if you go to horsemouthbook.com, you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. So that's horsemouthbook.com. And you can download your favorite book for your iPhone, Android, or MP3 player. This is Paula Slater signing off for Straight from the Horse's Mouth radio show. I hope to see you next week. Bye.